Welcome! Coming up on this week's Tech Show, we've got the Orbea Alma, a Go Far machine that gets an update, and a pedal flip on flats. The Hardtail isn't dead. Has it ever been dead? Or was I just wrong all along to say that it was dead? Often on the Tech Show, we cover lots and lots of new tech, and we do try and cover most innovative stuff from the full outer limits of mountain biking, from those hardcore XC, Enduro and DH Racers prototype bikes to patent-pending tech and cutting edge, or actually should it be the printing edge? I never know what we should say on that, from the hyper tech that is 3D printed. And well, it's taken me riding what's been designed as a next generation of XC race bike to fall in love with hardtails once again. I've ridden hardtails a lot. Again, I'm a lot older than I look, and for me, the purity of ride that you get from a hardtail, well, it's just unsurpassed. It's wonderful, that directness of ride, it's great. I feel for a long time though, the classic hardtail has been, well, an overlooked option. Not just here on Tech either, but in general. But as all things a mountain bike, they now have their own separate world, and there's this whole diverse world of different hardtails. And for some, it's easy to forget that, well, many first proper mountain bikes are, well, entry-level bikes. They're hardtails with quite mild rather than wild geometry. It's a middle ground, but they're perfect for those first steps, actually first pedals into the off-road world. Then, as we've got we've got those hardtails, we've then got, well, hardcore hardtails, which kind of came out from, well, as trail bikes developed into their own separate thing, so too do the hardcore trail bikes. Okay, there's a long history there with lots of influences from BMX trail, aka dirt jumping, and that street scene to sort of early 90s DH bikes as a bit of an influence too. And now modern enduro bikes are influencing these hardcore hardtails as well. But it's a whole other topic to discuss where they've come from. But what they are is a long travel fork, super slack head angles, fairly steep seat angles, mostly stiffer frames, which are great for gravity riding and pushing your skill limits. But for me, they're not always that great at longer days out in the saddle, the ones that I really enjoy. Okay, so at the other end of the riding spectrum were the cross-country hardtails. And whilst these were the go-to machines for many world titles and world championships and Olympic wins, I feel like they've missed a lot of geometry updates. And a lot of improvements that have really improved riding for lots and lots of people. I guess it's been a tech show mantra, if you like, of lower, slacker, longer. And okay, they were actually quite low because lots of cross-country riders really like a really slammed stem, but they were really steep for a long time. And that, yeah, is an interesting ride characteristic. For me, I think it's a hangover from cross-country races, and quite a lot of them are fantastic people, but they're not always as open-minded as their downhill brethren, and there's reasons for that. I mean, I remember chatting to a legendary XC racer way back when everyone was on 26-inch bikes. He was on a 26-inch bike, and the core thing for him was he would never run a dropper post because it added 300 grams to his bike, and that was just too much. So yeah, I mean, thankfully, what's happened is that courses have got a lot more technical, and then also he got over his weight weaniness because the track's got more technical, and we've got 29ers. And yeah, he is still an incredibly fast XC racer. I would say a gold medal winning fast. The lack of rear suspensions mean that head angle on a hardtail might matter actually more than on a full suspension bike because only the fork is moving, it's only getting steeper, and that does affect the handling. On a full suspension bike, as you brake and descend, yes, you get similar weight shift, so your centre of mass is going to move forward and it is going to compress the fork. But it's less dramatic because the rear is still compressing. And if the suspension system is designed well, it's going to, well, not just throw all of your weight forward, so you're going to get more grip, and it's going to balance out that head angle change because it will stay sort of the same. Think about the side view of a bike descending, and the rear suspension is still going to compress a little bit, especially if you're being good and dropping your heels. Right, back to a hardtail. As you brake and descend, that weight shift can only compress the fork. So even if you're being really good and you're dropping your heels, you're still just going to get the fork compressing, and that means that, well, the head angle is just going to get steeper and steeper, and often when you're descending on a hardtail, it's not when you want it to. Okay, perhaps it's that, or maybe it's this sort of hangover from lots of people's first bike being a hardtail is one of the reasons why they're forgotten about, or maybe we in the media are partly to blame too, because often it's the full suspension bikes that are pitched as the best next upgrade. And, well, you know, like if you've had a really good entry-level hardtail and you move up to a brand new or a new-to-you full suspension bike, I think lots of trail bikes are gonna have probably better geometry than most entry-level hardtails, especially cross-country hardtails, and the components might be a little bit newer or a little bit fresher, so that ride feel is going to be a little bit better. So what sticks in your brain isn't that hardtails can be really fun, it's that, oh no, suspension is the only way. But back to me and my mid-ride epiphany. So yes, it was an epiphany on a really expensive cross-country bike that was super light and really well spec'd. But I'm really lucky. I'm kind of blessed with the job that I do now, and I'm blessed that I've had lots of experience of riding, well, really sort of blingy bikes in the past as well. So it wasn't just that sort of jazzy new bike feel. It was something little bit deeper. And I've had a similar experience before actually, and that was on a short travel hardtail, one that I thought would ride like junk, but I was really wrong. Okay, some background on this bike. I was riding a lot of 26-inch trail bikes with 150mm forks, 140 travel, and this was an 80mm forked cross-country hardtail. And I thought this would be great at going uphill, but horrible everywhere else, like horrible in the twists and turns. But that bike converted me to the benefits of 29er. Okay, it was designed and developed by Gary Fisher, who, you've got to say, really helped us push 29ers forward. And that bike was I remember the moment, it was a real epiphany. And I've had this latest epiphany, a similar thing. And it wasn't wheel size, because I feel like 29ers for cross-country hardtails, and a lot of hardtails, are very good for lots of people. But with this bike, it was that XC bikes really benefit from the better, mellower, slacker geometry that, well, we've seen on trail bikes, we've seen on enduro bikes, we've seen on hardcore hardtails, but we haven't seen on XC before. So no, I'm not an XC racer, but this new era of XC hardtails, it's flicked on a welcome switch in my brain. At least for me, lots of the trails that I ride, they're not super gnarly, they're not super tech. They're not bike park stuff, they're not enduro and DH or really hardcore trails. Of course, that's got its place, and there's bikes for that, and I'm not saying that this bike is the one bike to rule them all, but for me, this bike is a really good example of a bike that you can use for those front door escapades, those big long days out in spring, up and down your favourite trails all summer day long, or maybe even an overnighter. And for me, it's this new breed of XC bike with a slacker, mellower handling that's really just turned me back on and flicked that switch that hardtails are still awesome. Okay, that is my view, that hardtails are awesome. But join the debate, join in the comments below, let me know. Hardtails, are they ripe for a comeback? And is XC mellower, slacker ones the future? Join in the debate. Basque brand Orbea have launched an all-new Alma. It's their thoroughbred XC race hardtail. The Alma is a storied model, first launched in 2006, an era when 26-inch was still king, or queen, of cross-country. Sort of odd actually, because the bike was actually launched as a 29er as well from the off. It amassed a huge number of wins from Catherine Pendrell and Julian Absalon, just to name a few, with national titles, World Cup wins, World Cup overalls, World Championships, oh yeah, and Olympic medals too. So what's new with this latest iteration? Kind of obviously, we've got a full carbon frame. With this one, it's impressively light. It's just over a kilo in a medium. The geometry has been tweaked. It's all built around a 110mm fork. Often cross-country bikes are sort of designed around a 90 or 100mm, so going up to 110 is more travel on the front. The head angle is slacked out to 67 degrees. The seat angle is 75.5, so not mega steep, but steeper than before. The reach for the medium is a 435mm. The rear centre or chainstay is a tight 425mm. There's a shorter seat tube for lower standover, and it's gone up from a 27.2 to a 31.6, so you've got more options for droppers. Tyre clearance is up to 2.4 inches, and it's proper clearance too. Like, there is a lot of space around a big 2.4 tyre already. Okay, all of that you might expect from a top-tier cross-country frame, but there is more. There is the X-Fader. Okay, that's Orbea's name for an innovative frame design. It's where the lower section of the seat tube steps up to meet the down tube further up than the bottom bracket. So on a traditional frame, the seat tube just runs down into that kind of junction between the bottom bracket, shell, and the down tube, whereas on this bike, it is in a different place. So Orbea say this positioning of the seat tube, as well as special carbon layup and seat tube profiling and seat stay profiling and profiling of the tube, top tube intersection, are all engineered to create a softer, smoother ride. So they say because of this oversized down tube and deep, tall chainstays, sort of what you'd imagine from that sort of structure, and a sort of unapologetic XC bike, there are no lost watts at all, but you should get a smoother ride. We've done a in-depth video all about it. If you want to know more, I think it went out over the weekend, so have a watch of that if you need to know more details. It's available in 4 sizes with 5 different models, with Orbea's unique custom spec and custom paint option, the Meadow, available on 3 models. Prices start from £2,799. Salsa have created an all-new Fargo, the original production drop bar mountain bike designed to go far. Get the name? Isn't it great? Yeah, anyway, okay, so yes, it does have drop bars, but these aren't the drop bars that you'll see on, well, like GCN or road bikes at all. So this is designed to be a drop bar mountain bike. So the geometry is optimized to fit with wider, and I mean really wide, flared drop bars. And it's capable and approved for handling everything from technical single track trails to, well, 2-track, fire roads, and obviously gravel. But this is where it gets really interesting. It's got really big tyre clearance too, so it is a proper mountain bike. You've got clearance for 29 by 2.2 on the frame, or a 29 by 3 on the fork. Yeah, by 3. There's a lot of cross-country bikes and a lot of enduro bikes that don't have that clearance. You could switch down to a 275 and run a 3-inch tyre. So it's available in a titanium and a steel option. The steel option has triple butted and it's a frame-specific seamless chromoly tubing. That means that the ride feel of, well, the smallest bike and the largest bike should feel the same, so that built-in flex and that comfort that you can get from steel, and well, you can get from any material as long as you're designing it in there. Often brands don't do that size-specific sort of butting or tubing size, so the ride can change between models, but Salsa have done their homework. The bigger feature on this is the alternator rear dropout, and that sort of needs some description. Effectively, we've got a kind of pivoting rear dropout, and this one has been redesigned for flat mount brakes, which are more popular with the sort of gravel group sets that are available. But what it offers up is a mountain of different options for you to run. So you could run it as a single speed, you could run it geared, you could put a QR, so different drop out but it bolts in, but you could run it as a QR, you can run it as a bolt through, you can run a free hub on it, you could run a roll off on it, and well, yeah, there's loads of options, so you can get yourself in a complete befuddlement. But Salsa's got quite a good website with lots of details about what you need and what hub options, but it is versatile, and that versatility runs through with lots of rack and bag mounts all over the frame. I mentioned sizes. It's actually got 5 sizes, from extra small to an extra large. The extra small has got an effective top tube of 520, and then the XL has got an effective top tube of 620. Now, those might seem kind of quite short for a mountain bike, but bear in mind that it's designed as a drop bar mountain bike, so you're going to get a lot more stretch when you're in the drops, and you've got these wider bars. Prices start from $2,599 US for a complete bike, or you can get frame sets starting from $999 US. So yeah, there's lots of options there. Let me know what you think about these drop bar mountain bikes. I feel like you're either going to love them or hate them, but join the debate in the comments below and we can have a good chat about them, whether you think they are or aren't. UK wheel brand Hunt have some new carbon wheels. They've got a long name and they've got some interesting tech in them. Proven Carbon Trail H-Core. I know, it's a long name. Hunt says it's the ultimate trail performance wheel, and these carbon wheels are both light and tough with the H-Core technology. Yeah, H-Core technology. Okay, this is really interesting, and it's something I've not seen any other brands do. I'm not sure of all the benefits, but it's interesting. So what Hunt are using is what they call a pultruded, highly compacted carbon insert. It sits in between the kind of like rim edge. Hopefully we've got a picture and you'll be able to see, and it runs as a solid piece. And it's said to reinforce the junction between the rim bed and the sidewall, which seems sensible. You want more strength there. Weights start from 1,732 grams. Actually, I say start from, it's only available in 29er and Boost, so essentially that is the weight. It's a hookless design, developed for 2.4 to 2.6 size tyres, but it will work with tyres as small as 2.25 inch and as big as 2.8. That's a lot of tyre. It's got a 38mm external width. That is really wide. And the inner rim width on the front, because it's front and rear specific rim profiles, is a 31mm, so it's pretty wide. And on the rear, it's 30, so it is a bit narrower, but they've got a 4mm wide bead edge on the rear. It's also got front and rear specific spokes, which is quite interesting because we've seen that with different spoke patterns in terms of different spoke counts for front and rear wheels. But with this one, it's just the butting on the spokes, so they're slightly different. It should result in a different ride feel, which makes sense. Some other brands do it. All of these sort of like details, the carbon rim and the spokes, are paired to Hunt's own S-Rapid Engage hub, which offers 2 degrees of engagement, which is quite impressive. It's backed by a 3-year warranty and pricing start from £1,199 UK pounds. It feels like we've reached a sort of great point with flat pedals. Many brands, Crank Brothers for example, now offer 2 sizes, and in terms of like adjustment, there's adjustable pins and you can adjust where the pins are on the pedals, and lots of them have got low profile. I mean, not all of them as low as Crank Brothers, but it kind of works. But all of a sudden, out of kind of nowhere, we've had a drop of, let's call them alternative pedal ideas. So from Pendulum single-sided one, which we showed you in a show previously, to 8-degree pedal that's got, float in it. That's very hard to describe, but effectively the pedal sort of wobbles. It's meant to be good wobble, but now there is another alternative pedal out there, which is the 9.8. They're truly flipping things around on pedals. 9.8, most likely most famous for long dropper posts and nicely ergonomic dropper levers. They've now developed an all-new inverse, which is INVRS pedal, and it's very, very different. So these are flat pedals, but I've got to say they're unlike any flat pedal that I've ever seen before. Please do let me know in the comments if I've missed a brand making a mountain bike pedal that is vaguely similar to this, because it is wild. The pedal format kind of looks pretty similar because we've got a parallelogram design, but the body is, well, completely devoid of pins. More on those later. But the pedal is covered with a soft rubber and a kind of like a dotty profile. And back to those pins, well, you could easily use a 2-bolt pattern shoe, so like a clip-in shoe, and bolt in a pin plate, cleat into them. So yeah, I mean, hopefully we've got pictures there, because otherwise it's really hard to get an idea on. Or 9.8 will send you studs that you can stud up your shoe with. So you can get your favourite flat pedal shoe and put up to sort of 50 pins in, which is kind of wild. So these are the very opposite of what we've seen from pretty much every pedal design ever. So opposed to having sticky shoes on a pinned pedal, we've got a sticky pedal and then we've got pins on our shoes. Yeah, so pricing for pedals with pins is £114.50, or you can get the pedals and the pinned cleats from £97.12, or you can just get the pedals from £56.79 plus shipping. They're interesting. I would love to know your thoughts, but that is not all. We've got more pedal innovation, this time from the company called Ambit Components. They've made lots of pedals before, and they are traditional in shape, but there's some more alternative tech. And I've got to say, this is a first for me. Again, I've asked you to kind of like join the conversation, because maybe I've missed these flat pedals. Maybe I've not seen them before. If you've seen any pedals with a rotational brake, like these Ambit pedals do, let me know. So yeah, they've got a brake on them. It's an Ambit patented feature, so it's a stepless rotational brake. And the rotational movement of the pedal can be individually adjusted. Yeah, so you can kind of have lots of spin or no spin. They're saying it's for control and safety, whether you're a slope style or technical jumps, which I guess, as I think about it, there was a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away where I could do really bad no-footers. And if you're trying to get your feet back on and the pedals had spun, yeah, it wouldn't be great. So with this, the pedal's going to stay still, which is, I can see an advantage. There's also felt seals, which is really interesting. Apparently the pedal strips down with just 3 screws. And also there's 3 different sizes and 5 colours. So the Breach model, which is a collab between a Taiwan manufacturer and Ambit, is available for €159. Yeah, plus shipping if you're outside Germany and Austria. Interesting stuff. About time pedals got flipped. Other stuff we've seen on the internet. Okay, Swedish fancy suspension units, Öhlins, have been bought by, well, another really fancy company, again with a motorsport background, which is the Brake Supremos Brembo. So that'll be really interesting to see where that happens. We saw a rad new high pivot bike from Czech brand Zokli. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. Please correct me if I'm wrong, I do apologise. Okay, we've seen a lot of high pivot, sort of steel, burly suspension bikes out there before, and lots of them are really cool. They've got lots of cool linkages and things, but I've got to say, I think this one is really clever. It uses what they call a split drive, and it uses a smaller industrial triple chain to move the chain power from the bottom bracket up to that main pivot, effectively sort of inside the frame. And then you've got like a normal derailleur setup on that high pivot. So I think it's going to work a lot better and there'll be less load. The chain's not having to do sort of like 2 different things, and also the chain line can be better. So yeah, really interesting, and it is quite a high pivot, but rad looking bike. Let us know your thoughts. J-Tech, a UK suspension tuner, one that's worked with lots of World Cup teams, has been busy, well, we can only imagine, we assume, with a 3D printer to create some discards for the intense factory racing team. We did see something similar from Loic Bruni last year at Fort William, and the logic is that these can help keep water, spray and mud and some heat into your brakes, so it keeps them ultra consistent. So yeah, are we going to see more of these? Possibly. Let me know in the comments below. Quiz time, one of my favourite parts. Last week I asked you, in a theme of Twin Peaks, what cult US brand, well, made a single speed bike that had the name of a character from Twin Peaks. And I thought it was a real stinker because I gave you a clue as well, because it was like a 650B single speed bike. It was real niche, but loads of you, 11 of you got it right. So yeah, hats off to you all. Shout out to Sepster58 and to Tim Sadler. The answer was the All City Log Lady. Key character in Twin Peaks. If you're not a fan, get watching. Okay, the question this week. I've tried to make it harder. We're changing topics, so we're waving goodbye to Twin Peaks, but we're sticking to the Pacific Northwest, sort of. I mentioned the XC phenomenon that is Catherine Pendrell. Hi, Catherine. And her many, many wins on the Alma. She also won lots on the Oys as well. But can you name the team that she raced on? And actually, there's sort of 2 answers for this, and I'll accept both, but sort of double points for both. Let me know in the comments. Bonus points are available as well, not just for the 2 teams, but if you know the backstory of how that team came into fruition. And if no one tells us in the answers, in the comments below, well, I'll just tell you next week. So don't worry, you'll find out. Comments! Okay, this is probably my most favourite bit because it's where I get to engage with you lot out there on the chat, and it's very fun. Last week's episode, well, it was quite controversial. We're talking about what I learned from the AliExpress building a super cheap bike from, yeah, a really low price point. And if you haven't watched it, you should check it out. But we had a lot of comments, some of them positive, some of them negative, and that's good. It's all part of a kind of good dialogue. So first comment here is from Jackie Gammon 2065, and they say, I definitely not buy parts or frame to build a bike from a company that hasn't been in business that long or doesn't offer a warranty. Okay, phew, somebody on my side of the warranty debate. I would definitely think about budget priced bikes, but the difference ends up being in the warranty or lack of warranty. And I definitely don't want to be a test product on a company that's done very little testing on bike parts. Liquid Spin has got some comments about the Danger Home bike that we had. So yeah, this is Danger Home's version of Scott's e-gravel bike, and it is, well, I mean, just the title is controversial to some of you out there, but yeah, some people not liking Danger Home. Quite a lot of people were sort of saying that he's making non-rideable samples, but I met the guy, he rides bikes. I think one of his lightest hardtails think we featured on the Eurobike coverage, is an everyday rider. Like, he literally changed the tyres out, which made it slightly heavier so they could ride it all day. And this is what Liquid Spin is saying. He doesn't get why anyone would slam Danger home. He's doing what a lot of us would love to do. Agreed, it would be super. He's a true rider. He's got a true passion for the sport. Completely agree. Yet, seeing people hate on him just because he's building unique bikes, how pathetic can you be? Or are you rather just jealous that you can't be doing it? I mean, yeah, quite heated there from Liquid Spin, but I have to agree, Danger Home's a rad guy. He's pushing the boundaries of what bikes are. Are you going to love all of them? No, and you don't have to. No one's forcing you to like them. And finally, Callaway 5148, Anno Purple. I'm getting into the 90s again. I know we had more anodised purple today. Isn't that great? If you've got comments, well, join in the debate down below and I'll see you there with lots of chats. Okay, now we're going to do what are we looking forward to this coming week? Well, I've got a great video on how to deep clean your drivetrain. And it is a real deep clean, so if you've been a little bit negligent, something to watch. And then, we've had a little bit of inclement weather here in the UK this winter. Not that surprising, but I've done a video on proving or not whether mudguards, aka fenders, are actually worth it. So tune in and, well, join the debate as well.